In 2021, Sea-Doo introduced their innovative series of boats called Switch, also known as the Lego boat. One of the unique aspects of this boat is that it has a very configurable interior, meaning that you can move the seats and accessories around as you see fit. But one of the things that surprised me about the product is that it didn't come with any fishing features. So when I heard that they were introducing the Switch Fish series, I knew I had to travel to the Houston Boat Show to check it out. So in today's video, I'm going to do a thorough walkthrough of the brand new 2025 Sea-Doo Switch Fish, and I'm going to point out some of the key features along the way. And towards the end of the video, I'm going to share with you some information on pricing and what I consider to be some of the key pluses and minuses of the product and who I think it's best suited for, so you'll want to stick around for that. Hi, Jerry Mona with Boater Input. I'm here at the 2025 Houston Boat Show, and I'm standing in front of the all-new 2025 Sea-Doo Switch Fish. In just a moment, I'm going to climb inside and show you what this boat is all about. But before I do so, I want to shout out a special thanks to Houston Motorsports for giving me the opportunity to spend some time and climb around on this boat and film this video. Now, I first wrote about the Sea-Doo Switch series back in 2023, and at that time, my main criticism was that it didn't come with any fishing features. And what surprised me about that is the whole concept of the Switch is that it was a modular boat, yet they didn't have any accommodations for fishing. Well, that all changed with the introduction of the Switch Fish. So in case you're not familiar with the Switch series, let me just start by telling you a little bit about it. This boat is known as the Lego boat, meaning that the seats and accessories are all modular, meaning you could pop them out and move them around as you see fit. So that's the primary difference. The other difference is that this is a jet-powered boat. And I know a lot of moms are concerned about things like safety. And so with jet-powered boat, they may feel a little bit better about having jet propulsion. However, if you are on a lake that has a lot of vegetation, you might have to be a little bit careful there too, just to avoid sucking that in. And the third thing that is unique about the Sea-Doo Switch series is it's a sportier design. So you can see here you've got handlebars instead of a steering wheel. The seats, may not be as plush as you might see in some of the higher end pontoon boats, but they certainly are adequate. So those are some of the key differences with the Switch series. And so now what I'd like to do is highlight some of the unique features of the Sea-Doo Switch Fish. First of all, you've got these pedestals that come with the boat. They come with two. You can add more if you wish. And you can move those around anywhere on board the boat where you see those grids. Okay, so you can move those wherever, set them up in the front, set them up in the back. You can add more, however, whatever meets your style and how many people you want to fish with. In addition to that, you've got these fishing electronics. And so you've got the Garmin trolling motor here, and that comes standard with a key fob to control it. But for a little extra, you can get a foot pedal to control if you prefer that. It also has a built-in battery charger underneath this hatch down here. And so all you do is pull the cord out and plug it back in to get the dock, and so you can charge up your trolling motor batteries to be ready for the next time. Then you've got two Garmin fish finders. These are 7-inch units. You've got one up here in the bow, and then you've got one, of course, here at the helm as well. So all the key fishing electronics that you need. And if you're someone who likes to keep your catch, it comes with this live well. It looks like a cooler, but it's actually a live well with aerator inside. So that's super handy. And then you can see that you've got these rod holders along the rail that you can move around as you see fit. And then you've got this rod rack or rod holder as well. So those are some of the unique features of the Fish Switch model. Some standard features of the Sea-Doo Switch is you've got the handlebar steering that I mentioned earlier. So you've got a forward and reverse. And then you've got acceleration. You push in on here like a motorcycle, or you can put braking on this side. And then you've got a dash here, and it's not lit up now, but it's a digital dash, and you can customize what gauges that you want to have displayed up there. So you got a lot of flexibility that way. And then you also have some of these bench seats, and you can add more if you wish. So you have that option. And then inside each of the seats, you've got your standard storage compartments, like you would expect in any regular pontoon. Storage is always very important, and so you've got storage ability there. And if that's not enough, it also comes with this storage bin, but you can add more of those if you wish. So those are some of the key features of the Sea-Doo Switch. It also comes with a bimini top here as well, which is, you can tell, the bracket is very sturdy. Should hold pretty well. So that's important too for both comfort as well as from health standpoint. So those are some of the key features of the Sea-Doo Switch.
Okay, so now I'd like to show you some configuration options for the Sea-Doo Switch Fish. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to go to the Sea-Doo website, and I'll leave a link to that in the video description. And once you're there, click on the Pontoons tab in the far left column. And then once that loads, you'll scroll down and then you'll see the Switch Fish. So click on that. And then once you're there, the next thing you want to do is click on Build and Price right here. And you're going to see that they have kind of 3 different package options. You've got the 18-foot Switch Fish with a 170 horsepower jet engine. You've got an 18-foot with a larger 230 horsepower engine. And then you've got a 21-footer with the same 230 horsepower engine. And you can see some of the prices down below here. So now what I like to do is just, we'll pick one, and so we can kind of show you some configuration options. So we'll pick the 21-footer with the 230 horsepower engine. And then you've got your options here over on the right-hand side. And in terms of color, there's only one option at the present time, as Wilderness Green. You click underneath the Options tab, and then it's going to have some things down here, most of which we've already pre-selected. So for engine, it's already got the 230. On gauge, this is really the display, and it comes with a 4.5-inch display, so there's nothing to check there. The length, we already checked the 21-footer, so that's what it's showing. And then for trailer, it comes with a painted trailer, so that's included in the price. Now, if you're going to be using in saltwater, then you may want to opt for a galvanized trailer. Okay, so now let's click on bundles. And what I want to point out here is they've got a number of different bundles, but they're, as you can see, they're pretty expensive. And the least expensive one is this Essentials bundle. And what that really has is it's got, you know, rope, fire extinguisher, paddle, anchor, that kind of stuff. And, you know, my recommendation is that you can, you know, shop elsewhere for many of those items. And that's what I recommend doing. There are other accessories too that are included in these bundles, but I also suggest that you know, get your boat, use it, see what you want to do with it, and then decide which options or accessories you want to add at that point. Now, speaking of accessories, let's take a look at that. And as I mentioned, I recommend that you kind of hold off on adding too many items. Now, there are some things depending on your interest you may want to do. For example, if you're really into music, you know, you may want to upgrade some of your audio capabilities there. So that's your choice, but that can, again, add a lot of cost. But there are just a few things that I do recommend that you minimally should add or include, and that is, if you're going to keep your boat outside, okay, I would click on the covers, and I would make sure you add a mooring cover. Otherwise, your boat's going to get dirty and fading and all that over time. So if you're going to keep a boat outside, I would definitely get a cover. And if you're someone who likes to do like sunset cruise, you plan on doing sunset cruising, then adding these dock lights would be a good option for you. And then one of the things that pontoon boaters often like to do is serve food or snacks on board their boat. And so if that's so this adjustable table that you can put in is only, you know, $280, and so that may be a worthwhile option. And then under tops, bimini, and camper enclosure, the bimini on the Sea-Doo Switch Fish does not come with a boot or sleeve. And so it'd be nice to have that. So for when you collapse that top, you can, you know, zip it up into that sleeve or enclosure. Now, they also have 2 different larger bimini options. And so if you're someone who's, you know, you don't like the heat, or you're worried about health and exposure to sun, you may want to consider a larger bimini. And they have 2 options there. They have a double bimini and then a sunshade extension. Now, the difference between these two is that the sunshade extension is only intended for when you are basically parked or cruising at a slow speed, say under 5 miles an hour or less, whereas the double bimini can be used at whatever speed you're going on the water. So that's just another thing to consider. And then finally, if you intend to do water sports, and many people who get pontoons use it to pull a tube or do wakeboarding, if that's you, then I highly recommend you get a ski pylon here. So what that'll do is that'll elevate the line up away from the jet, and it'll be just easier to deal with, and so that'll be nice to have. I don't know what the Sea-Doo Switchfish has if you didn't get this pylon. Sometimes they'll have a lower eye that you can attach to, or sometimes there's lift rings on the pontoons. I'm not sure if they have that in this case. But if you do that, that rope is sometimes will be lower to the water and may create some splash. So getting it elevated like this is often advantageous. So those are just some of the minimum items that I suggest that you should consider adding to your Switchfish. But next, we're going to take a look at some of the pricing, how the pricing stacks up for some of these configuration options. Okay, so now let's take a look at pricing for the different configuration options for the Sea-Doo Switchfish. And so the first one I'm going to take a look at is the 18-foot model with the 170 horsepower, which is the smallest engine that it can come with. You can see the base price with trailers, just a little over $44,000. And then if you add the cover and docking lights, a table, the bimini sleeve, and the ski pylon, like I had mentioned, that the total MSRP comes out to $46,629. Now, that's an MSRP price. That may not be what you actually pay because there's usually room to negotiate there. So I'm estimating that the actual price would be somewhere in the $36,000 to $41,000 range. Now, how did I get to that? I have a new boat price estimator tool on my website that you can use, and it'll kind of calculate that range for you. So I'll leave a link to that again in the video description. And then if we want to step up to a larger engine, again, still in the 18-foot boat, go up to the 230 horsepower engine. Again, keep the same accessories that I selected earlier. The price will be about $2,000 higher, somewhere in that $38,000 to $43,000 range. And then if you go a step further, and same size engine, but step up to a 21-foot model, the total price is about $3,000 more than the 18-footer with the same engine. So $41,000 to $46,000 is what you're looking at there. Now, one of the reasons people would consider a Sea-Doo Switchfish is that it may be more affordable pontoon. So to look at that, I wanted to compare the Sea-Doo Switchfish to a comparable pontoon boat. And it's kind of hard to compare because they're very different between the Sea-Doo Switchfish and what it offers, and being a jet versus a regular pontoon with an outboard engine. But I think the Sun Tracker is also kind of more of a value boat, and so I try to get something that's fairly comparable. So the length of the Sea-Doo Switchfish 21 is 20 foot 5 inches. The Sun Tracker fishing barge 20 DLX that I use for this comparison has the boat itself is 21 foot 11 inches, but the deck is 19 foot 10 inches. So depending on how you look at it, it's either a little bit larger or a little bit smaller. The beam of the Sun Tracker is a little bit wider. They both can accommodate 10 passengers. The fuel capacity is about the same. Now, the pontoons on these Switchfish, they're made of a Polytech, what they call Polytech material, which is this hard plastic. If you're familiar with the Sea-Doo Spark, it's that same material. Whereas the Sun Tracker pontoon have aluminum pontoon logs, and there's only 2 of those. It's not a tri-toon. And then in terms of top speed, the Sea-Doo Switch 21 with a 230 horsepower jet will go roughly 35 miles per hour, whereas the Sun Tracker will go, I believe, around 31 miles an hour, so a little bit slower there. But you can see, even though it's a much smaller horsepower engine, 115 versus a 230, you can't compare apples to apples on horsepower. Jets tend to be a little bit less efficient, and so it would take a lesser horsepower to equate to the performance of a larger jet engine. Okay, so now let's take a look at the corresponding prices. So over here on this first column, you have the Sea-Doo Switchfish 21 foot with a Rotax 230 horsepower jet engine. And then we've got the Sun Tracker Fishing Barge 20 DLX with a Mercury 115 Pro XS. So the base price of the Sea-Doo Switchfish with the 230 jet is about $50,000, whereas the base price for the Sun Tracker is at $35,000. But then I wanted to kind of balance out the two boats in terms of how they are equipped. So, in terms of fish finders, as you saw in the walkthrough, the Sea-Doo comes with two Garmin 7-inch fish finders, and so that's included in the price. Whereas the Sun Tracker doesn't have an equivalent fish finder package, and so you will have to add those separately. So you could probably get those for a little bit less than $1,000 a piece or $2,000 total. However, I've added a little bit extra for installation. Similarly, up for the trolling motor, the Switchfish comes with the Garmin Kraken 80 pounds of thrust trolling motor, and so to get the equivalent on the Sun Tracker would be roughly $4,000 extra, again with installation. In terms of pedestal seats, the Sun Tracker comes with 3, whereas the Switchfish comes with 2, but you can add a third for $1,000. So to keep it apples to apples, I went ahead and added that. In terms of the sound system, they seem pretty similar. You've got, for the Switchfish, you got the BRP audio with 2 6-inch speakers, and then for the Sun Tracker, you got wet sounds with 2 6-inch speakers, so that's fairly comparable. And then, as I mentioned on the walk earlier, the Sea-Doo Switchfish, the Bimini does not come with a boot or sleeve, so you'll need to add that separately. Likewise, the Sun Tracker comes with docking lights, but you would have to add that for the Switchfish. You'll need to add a cover for both. There's no fire extinguisher on the Switchfish, so that's $35 extra. And the Switchfish comes with the trailer that's included in the price, whereas you'll have to pay extra for that on the Sun Tracker. So as you can see here, the Sun Tracker with the 115 comes out to $46,740, and Sun Tracker or all the Bass Pro Shop boat brands have this no haggle pricing, and so and that would include most items. It would not include these electronic accessories that we'd add separately, but your price would come out pretty close to this. Whereas the Sea-Doo Switchfish comes out to $52,434 as an MSRP. However, that's an MSRP price, so you could likely negotiate a little bit less than that. So I'm estimating you'd probably pay somewhere in the neighborhood of $41,000 to $46,000 for the Sea-Doo. So as you can see here, the price of the Sea-Doo Switchfish is estimated to be at or below that of the Sun Tracker. So now let's take a look at some of the advantages and disadvantages of the Sea-Doo Switch versus traditional pontoon. So one of the advantages, of course, is that it's highly configurable. That's because you can add different accessories, different seating options, and so one day you can load it up and go cruising with your friends and kind of partying around the lake. And then the next weekend you can take your angler buddies and do some serious fishing. So you've got that flexibility. Another advantage is that it's a more sporty type of pontoon. You've got the handlebar steering, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you've got good acceleration with the jet propulsion. You can turn on a dime with the jet engine as opposed to an outboard. And along with that, you get that better acceleration, as I mentioned, because jets just do a better job than propellers in terms of acceleration. And also safety can be a factor too. I know a lot of moms are sometimes worried about their kids in the water when you've got a propeller down in there. It's usually not an issue, more of a perceptual factor for a lot of folks. But again, might give moms greater peace of mind to having a jet as opposed to a propeller. And then finally, as you just saw, the Sea-Doo Switch could be on the lower end of the price range and be same amount or less than a traditional pontoon. Now let's look at the other side of the coin. I'd say one of the disadvantages of the Sea-Doo Switch is going to be comfort. And what I mean by that is you've got those seats that you can pop in and move around, and they're going to be decent seats, but they're not going to be as plush and thick as you see in most other pontoons. And so, that's a disadvantage there. Storage is going to be less as well on the Sea-Doo Switch, because you have those seats, and so you're going to have the storage under the seat is common in most pontoons, but with the Sea-Doo Switch, you've got those separate sections, and so it's going to kind of break up your storage compartments rather than having a big long cavity. And the other thing too is the storage underneath the seats is not going to be dry storage. They do have it does come with a storage bucket and that would be dry, but the storage underneath the seats would not be. Noise could be a little bit of a factor too, because jet engines tend to run at a higher RPM than outboards, and so they're going to be a little bit higher. Going to be a little bit more noise, and because of that higher RPM, they also tend to be less fuel efficient. So you may be paying a little bit more on gas. And then finally, if you're operating the boat in a lot of a weedy lake or shallow areas, a lot of sand, and you're in 3 foot or less, the jet engine may suck that up into the pump itself. And so that could be a bit of a nuisance, a little bit of a hassle to have to, clean that out periodically. So, is a Sea-Doo Switch a good pontoon boat? Well, with most boats, it's not a question of being good or bad. It's a question of whether it's the right fit. And so if you're, maybe a younger boater who's looking for something that's very configurable, very flexible, where you can fish some days and cruise the other days, and you want something that's a little bit more sporty and fun to drive, then the Sea-Doo Switch may be just exactly what you're looking for. On the other hand, if you're, say, a more mature boater and you're looking for that kind of comfort that you would expect in, say, your family room, where you just kind of want to go slowly and relax around the lake, then the Sea-Doo Switch may not be the best option for you.
If you enjoyed this video, do me a big favor and click on that like button. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel to get my latest tips and insights to help you purchase, equip, and maintain your boat. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and I will see you out on the water.